I knew something was off the second she said his name. "Mason's gonna join us tonight," she told me, like it was no big deal. Just slid it in while brushing her hair in the mirror, totally casual. That hit like a punch to the gut. It was our anniversary. 2 years. I'd made a reservation at this sleek Korean barbecue spot in Midtown. Big grills at the table, slick black tile, soft lights. Not cheap, but not insane either. I figured we'd eat good, laugh, maybe even talk about the future a little. Instead, I got Mason. "My name's Drew. I'm 27. I live in Nashville." Sarah and I had been together for 2 years. Nothing fairy tale, but solid. She was smart, quick-witted, kind when she wanted to be. We had our issues like any couple, but I thought we were still moving forward. Then Mason came back to town. They'd grown up together, same street, same birthday even. She called him her ride or die, which I always thought sounded a little much. But I figured, hey, childhood friends. He'd been out in Seattle for a while doing tech stuff. A few months back, he moved back here. And suddenly Sarah was helping him settle in every other weekend. I bit my tongue a lot more than I should have. That morning, when she said he was coming to dinner, I paused mid-coffee. "It's our anniversary," she shrugged. "I know, but he just got back from that meditation retreat thing. He really wants to catch up. Can't you do that another night?" She laughed, like I was the one being difficult. "Come on, don't make this weird. He's basically family to me." That line stuck in my chest. Family. Then why does he always look at me like I'm furniture? Still, I gave in. Thought maybe I was overthinking it. Tried to play mature boyfriend. Told myself it didn't have to be a big deal. I even double-checked the reservation, made sure we still had a booth for 3. Got there early, showered, shaved. Wore the button-up she once said made me look less tired. Looking back, I should have canceled the whole thing right then. But I didn't. I told myself it'd be fine. We'd eat, talk, and maybe he'd leave early. That was the hope anyway. We walked in right at 7. Booth by the far wall. Leather seats, big steel grill in the middle, perfect lighting. And there he was, already sitting, already drinking. Mason raised his glass like he barely remembered my name. "Hey man." That was it. No handshake, no happy anniversary. Nothing. Just turned right back to Sarah and launched into some story about high school debate club like I wasn't even standing there. She laughed. Slid in beside him like it was the most natural thing in the world. I took the seat across, telling myself to just ride it out. Be polite. Let them catch up. But they didn't catch up. They took over. He'd say something about their old coach being a literal tyrant, and she'd jump in with, "Remember when he made me do 2 speeches back to back?" Then he'd cut her off. Cut her off. Just to tell another story about how they dominated regionals junior year. They were locked in, talking fast, interrupting each other, laughing too loud. I sat there like a damn seat filler. I tried jumping in once, mentioned our anniversary trip to Asheville last fall. I thought it'd shift things a little. "Yeah. Remember the cabin with the fireplace and the—" Mason didn't even blink. "Oh man, that reminds me. Remember when your dad's cabin flooded during prom weekend? We thought we'd have to canoe out of there." Sarah cracked up. "That was the worst weekend and the best. I still have the photo where you're in that poncho made of trash bags." I just stared at the grill. Couldn't even finish my sentence. The waiter came over, finally. Guy in a crisp white shirt, super professional. "Can I get you all started with drinks?" I opened my mouth to order a beer, but Mason beat me to it. "What do you have that's celebratory?" he asked, leaning back like he owned the damn place. The waiter hesitated. "We have a Junmai Daijinjo sake. Bottles 310. Mason grinned. "Perfect. We'll take it." I froze. Did he just drop $300 like it was nothing? I looked at Sarah, waiting for her to say something. Push back. At least glance my way. She just giggled. Go big or go home, right? They clinked glasses, toasted to lifelong friendships. She didn't even look at me, just kept her glass raised toward him. I didn't lift mine. For a second, I seriously thought about walking out, right then and there. But instead, I sat back, clenching the edge of the table, trying to breathe slow. We ordered food: short ribs, pork belly, bulgogi, the usual spread. I figured, fine, maybe once the meat hit the grill, things would level out. They didn't. Mason kept running his mouth. Stories, jokes, random memories. Every time I tried to speak, he jumped in louder, like he had some damn radar for when I was about to open my mouth. At one point I said, "So, anyway, when Sarah and I first started dating," he cut me off again. "Remember when she dated that guy in junior year with the goatee? What was his name? Rob? No, Rod. God, he was such a tool." Sarah snorted. "Rod. I forgot about him. He tried to impress me with that beat-up Mustang." I looked at her. She didn't even flinch, just kept laughing. Food came, plates sizzling, steam rising up. I poured some dipping sauce, grilled the first batch of meat, passed it around. Mason didn't say thank you, just grabbed the tongs from my hand like it was his grill now. Sarah barely touched her plate, too busy talking. I chewed in silence. Every time I looked across the table, it was like I wasn't even there. Mason kept calling her Sarah, which I'd never heard anyone call her before. She didn't correct him, just smiled. I finally leaned in a little and said, "So, maybe after dinner we could." He talked over me again, loud. "We should do this more often, Sarah. You, me, old times. Get the crew back together. Hit up that karaoke bar like senior year." She grinned. "God, yes. That'd be so fun." That was it. That was when I knew. I wasn't the boyfriend tonight. I was the third wheel. Maybe I'd been the third wheel for longer than I realized. And when Mason raised his glass for another toast and said, "To the people who know us best," I didn't even pretend to join in. I just sat back and watched them drink. I pushed my chair back and stood up like my body was moving on its own. They barely noticed. Sarah was leaning into Mason, laughing at something I didn't hear. I didn't bother saying anything, just told her, "Bathroom," and walked off before she could reply. Inside the stall, the air felt thick and stale. I locked the door, sat down, and pulled up my calculator. My hands shook a little, not from fear, just from pure, boiling frustration. My meal came to 36. Hers, 29. Mason's, 48. Add the drinks, tax, tip, my cut landed around 240. 240 to sit there like a ghost. I stared at the number. It was insane, but it was also simple. I didn't owe them anything more. I got up, washed my hands, and walked straight to the bar instead of the table. A different server was there, a woman with dark hair pulled into a tight ponytail. She looked busy, but when I held up the check number on the screen, she paused. "Could I split the bill and just pay my portion?" I asked. She glanced toward the back, then at me. "Yeah, no problem. What did you have?" I listed my order. She tapped fast, printed something, and slid the slip my way. 240 even. I paid in cash. Clean, simple, no trail for Sarah to twist. Then I grabbed 30 more and tucked it under the register. "That's for you," I said. Her eyebrows jumped. "Thanks. You okay?" "I'm good," I said, even though I wasn't. Just settling up. I turned and headed for the back hallway. Past the kitchen doors, the hum of the exhaust fans, the smell of grilled meat clinging to the air. Pushed open the metal exit door. Cold air hit my face. Felt sharp, like it was cutting all the noise out of my head. I didn't look back. I walked to my car, unlocked it, got in, and killed my phone with one swipe. Silence filled the cabin instantly. No buzzing, no calls, no explanations. I drove home with the windows cracked, letting the cool night air drown out every stupid toast and every laugh they'd shared across that table. The drive felt shorter than usual, almost automatic. At home, I went straight to the fridge, grabbed a beer, popped the top, and sat on the couch without turning on a single light. I didn't even drink right away, just held the bottle, staring at the blank wall, breathing slow until my chest stopped feeling tight. An hour passed, maybe more, hard to tell. When I finally turned my phone back on, it exploded. Notifications stacked up like a slot machine hitting jackpot. 60 missed calls, dozens of texts. All Sarah. I opened the first one. "Are you serious?" Next one. "You left me here?" Then, I had to ask my dad for his card. This is humiliating. I kept scrolling, watching her anger spiral message by message. I didn't reply. I didn't even screenshot anything. I just set the phone down on the table, letting the screen light flicker across the room. Her last text came in right then. Call me now. I didn't move. I just took a long drink of the beer and let the room stay dark. The next morning, I was halfway through making coffee when the pounding started. Not knocking. Pounding. Fast. Loud. Constant. She wasn't gonna stop. I opened the door and Sarah stormed in like she owned the place. Still in last night's outfit, eyes wild, phone in her hand like a weapon. You humiliated me, she shouted, not even looking at me. What the hell was that? You just dipped. I didn't answer right away. Just shut the door behind her and leaned against it. I had to ask my dad for his card, she said, waving her phone. Do you have any idea how that looked? In front of Mason, the server said, the gentleman already paid his share, like I was some psycho. I stayed calm. You brought a guest to our anniversary dinner. A guy. You didn't even ask. It was just dinner. No, it was our dinner. You knew what that night was. Why was he even there? Her mouth twisted. Why are you acting like this? You're being controlling. I laughed once. Dry, low, no humor in it. Controlling? I asked you not to bring a dude to our anniversary. That's controlling. She crossed her arms. So I'm not allowed to have guy friends now? Not the kind who hijack the whole night and order a $300 bottle on my dime. You didn't even pay for it. That's the point, Sarah. I paid for my part and left. Like a damn adult. She paced the living room now, still gripping her phone, trying to think of something to hit me with. You're jealous, she said finally. That's what this is. You've always been insecure around him. I stepped forward, voice low but sharp. You didn't even try to include me. You sat there laughing like I didn't exist. Mason acted like I was interrupting his date. Was that the plan? She scoffed. Wow, really reaching. Were you gonna tell me before or after he moved in here too? Her head snapped toward me. Oh my God, you sound insane. I sound done. That stopped her. What? I'm done, I said flat. Get your stuff out by Sunday. She blinked, like she hadn't heard it right. You're dumping me? She said, mouth open. After your little stunt last night? I nodded. Yeah. She laughed loud. Fake. Cruel. You think you're the victim here? Grow up, Drew. It was just dinner. I grabbed her spare key from the hook near the door and held it up. This key gets deactivated Sunday night. Whatever you want to keep. Get it out by then. She stared at me, still waiting for me to flinch. I didn't. You're actually serious, she said. I didn't answer. I walked past her, opened the front door, and held it. She looked at me like she wanted to throw something. Instead, she just stormed out, shoulders slamming into mine on the way. Didn't say goodbye. Didn't look back. I shut the door behind her and locked it. Saturday morning hit quiet and cold. I'd already been up an hour, stacking her boxes in the living room, taping the last one shut. Clothes, shoes, chargers, random bathroom stuff. Everything she owned fit into 6 medium boxes. Looked smaller than I expected. Maybe I'd been giving her more space in my life than she actually took. At 9 on the dot, there was a knock. Not angry this time, just sharp and impatient. I opened the door and saw all 3 of them lined up like some weird moving crew. Sarah in leggings and an oversized sweatshirt, arms crossed. Her cousin, Jenna, hovering behind her, trying to smile like this was going to be civil. And then Mason, hands shoved into his pockets, chin lifted like he wanted me to know he wasn't scared of me. I didn't say hi, just stepped back so they could come in. Sarah brushed past me without a word, straight into the living room, eyes scanning the boxes. These are mine. Everything you left here, I said. She didn't even check the labels, just started ripping the tops open, digging through each box like she expected to find diamonds. Clothes flew everywhere. Mason stood off to the side, pretending to scroll his phone. Jenna bent down to help Sarah repack, whispering something about keeping things calm. I didn't engage. I just watched. Then Sarah stopped suddenly and looked around the room. "Where's your vinyl rack?" My stomach clenched. I followed her eyes to the empty corner by the bookshelf. The place where my collection always sat. The tall wooden rack. The sleeves lined up perfectly. All the signed pressings I'd spent years hunting down. 30 albums at least. Every one of them special. The space was bare. "Where's the rack, Drew?" she asked again, like she expected me to explain it. I walked over, stood in front of the empty spot, and felt heat crawl up my neck. "It was right here. When was the last time you saw it?" "2 weeks ago," I said. "I dusted everything." She shrugged and started digging in another box. "Relax. I helped you box those up last month. They're probably in a closet." "No, you didn't." My voice came out harder than I expected. "Yes, I did. We were cleaning and you had that podcast interview coming up. Remember?" "Sarah," I said, stepping toward her. "I never packed those, and I sure as hell never asked you to touch them." Mason looked up now, like he finally realized this wasn't normal small talk. Jenna straightened her back, sensing trouble. I didn't wait. I tore down the hall, yanked open the coat closet. Nothing. Hall closet, nothing. Bedroom closet, empty shelves. No cardboard boxes, no sleeves. Nothing that even hinted my collection had ever been in there. Each door I opened made the sinking feeling worse. When I came back to the living room, she was standing there all calm, arms folded, like she'd been waiting for me to accept her little story. "See? They're probably somewhere stupid. You always misplace things." I stared at her, hard. "You took them." She smirked, small, quick, but unmistakable. "Don't be dramatic. They'll turn up." I stepped closer. "Don't play games with me. My signed collection is gone. That's $4,000 of music. And one of those albums is irreplaceable." Mason finally spoke. "Dude, chill. It's just records." I snapped my eyes toward him. "Stay out of it." He lifted his hands like he was the reasonable one. "Just saying." "I don't care what you're saying." Sarah rolled her eyes. "You're making a scene. If you'd organized like I told you, you'd know where everything is." "You have 24 hours, I said, pointing at the empty space where my rack used to be. "Return every album, every sleeve, everything, or I'm filing a police report." Jenna stepped between us. "Hey, let's all just calm down. We don't need this to get ugly." "It's already ugly," I said. "Something expensive is missing, and she's pretending she doesn't know why." Sarah scoffed. "You seriously think I stole from you?" "God, Drew." "I don't think," I said. "I know." She turned toward Mason like I was being ridiculous. "Let's just get my stuff and go." "No," I said. "Not until you acknowledge the vinyl." She waved her hand dismissively. "They'll show up. Stop freaking out." "That's not an answer." She shrugged again. That same smug, effortless shrug she used whenever she wanted to make me feel stupid. "Then file whatever report you want." Jenna sighed. "Please, both of you, just breathe." "Not when $4,000 of my stuff is missing," I said. "I'm not letting this slide." Sarah stared at me, eyes flat, like she was daring me to push it. I didn't blink. I didn't soften. I wanted her to see exactly how serious I was. Mason grabbed one of her boxes and headed to the door like the conversation was over. I didn't stop him. I just stepped aside, watching every move they made, waiting for even the slightest sign that she'd break and admit it. She didn't. The second they were gone, I shut the door and dialed non-emergency. Told the cop everything, the collection, the value, the fact that she admitted being the last person who handled it. He asked, "Was there forced entry?" "No. She had a key. But it's deactivated now." "Any direct proof she took them?" "Not yet." He sighed. "Then it's civil, not criminal. You'll have to take her to small claims." I didn't argue. I just hung up and got to work. I wasn't stupid. I had receipts. Pulled up my podcast clips. Episode 23, full frame of the vinyl rack behind me. Clear as day. Zoomed in, paused it, snapped a screenshot. Dated 3 weeks ago. Then I found the Instagram post, one of the records in my hand, showing the signature. Caption, One of the rarest I own. Never leaving my shelf. Date stamped. Public. Then I went to my Google Photos. Searched vinyl. Dozens of pics came up. Shelf full, different angles, even some old cleaning shots I'd taken to brag about my setup. Time-stamped. Geotagged. Not fake, not photoshopped. Next stop. Legal help. Found a local guy who did free consults on Tuesday afternoons. I called, sent my files, and booked a slot. Drove across town the next day with a folder full of proof. His office was tiny, cluttered, smelled like coffee and printer ink. He flipped through everything in silence, then looked up and said, "You've got a solid theft case, especially if she refuses to return the items." "She's pretending they're in a closet," I said. "I already tore the place apart." He nodded. "Then document everything. File again. Bring this with you. If she lies, that's her problem." I thanked him, went home, and filed another report, this time with full evidence. Photos, screenshots, episode clips, value estimates. Every piece dated, every item labeled. I didn't leave gaps. The next day, a different officer called me back. Younger guy. Actually listened. "You say she took around 30 records?" "Correct. And this one's worth $2,000? On its own." He paused. "Okay, that changes things. I'll mark this for further review. Progress." 2 days later, I got a text from a random number. I almost ignored it, but something told me to check. "Why are you escalating this? It's just music stuff." It was her. Same tone, same deflection, just from Jenna's number now. I didn't reply. An hour later, Mason chimed in from his own phone. "She didn't mean harm. Some stuff might have gotten scratched in storage. Let it go, man." That was it. The line. Scratched. I took a screenshot, then another, labeled each one and emailed them to the lawyer. Damage admission. She was done. That night, I filed the claim. $6,500 even. Value of the records. Damage estimates. Legal and filing fees. And peace of mind. Next step? Serve her. 2 days after filing, she got served at work. Nonprofit downtown does literacy programs for teens, all about youth development, community trust, blah blah blah. They handed her the papers right there at the front desk. I didn't see it happen, but I heard about it fast. Her sister was the first to call. Unknown number, I picked up without thinking. "You seriously served her at her job?" she snapped. "Not my call," I said. "That's where the server found her. You're ruining her life over some records. She stole from me. That's the consequence." She hung up. An hour later, voicemail from her mom. Voice all soft and disappointed. Like I was a bad son. "You're better than this, Drew. She's going through a tough time. You don't need to escalate things this way." I didn't reply to either one. Instead, I opened up GarageBand, sat down in front of the mic, and hit record. I didn't say her name, didn't hint at who she was, but I laid it all out: the dinner, the hijack, the theft, the texts, the denial. How people you trust will test your boundaries. And when you finally hold the line, they call you the problem. I posted the episode and went to sleep. Next morning, chaos. Downloads tripled overnight. By the weekend, quadrupled. Listeners were tagging friends, dropping stories of their own in the comments, saying it felt like I was telling their exact experience. Spotify blew up. Apple Podcasts ranked it in trending for true personal. And then someone, not me I swear, dug her up, found her LinkedIn, matched the timeline, tagged her employer under a clip from my show. I didn't repost it. I didn't comment. I didn't touch it. But the internet did what it always does. A week later, someone messaged my show's account. "Thought you'd want to know. She's on leave. Pending internal review." No name, no source, but it checked out. Same day, Mason texted me again. "Bro, she's spiraling. She's not eating. Her job's up in the air. You happy now?" I stared at the message for a full minute before answering. "She stole. I'm just collecting receipts." He replied, "Man, it wasn't even malicious." I didn't respond. There was nothing else to say. They all wanted me to take the fall for her choices. Like I was supposed to just shrug off 4 grand in rare records, get played at dinner, and still show up smiling. No, not happening. Actions have consequences. She took something that didn't belong to her, and not just the vinyl. She gambled I'd stay quiet. Instead, I pressed record. Court came faster than I expected. I barely had time to prep my statement before we were sitting across from each other under those flickering lights, waiting for the judge to show. She walked in like it was just another appointment on her calendar. Tight bun, flat shoes, a little oversized blazer she probably borrowed from her mom. But the real show was the guy next to her, mid-40s, slick hair, cheap cologne, wrinkled gray suit with a neon tie. The type who calls himself aggressive but reasonable in TV ads. My lawyer leaned in. That's her guy. I nodded. He smirked. This'll be quick. We didn't speak before the hearing. She didn't look at me once. Just sat stiff in her chair, eyes on her phone, like she was above all of it. Then the judge came in. Older woman, glasses halfway down her nose, zero patience for nonsense. Called the case, asked for statements. Her lawyer jumped up first like he'd been dying to monologue. Your Honor, my client made an emotional mistake during a difficult breakup. There was confusion about shared property. There was no malicious intent. She was under stress. He kept going, trying to paint her like a heartbroken victim. He even called the vinyl sentimental knickknacks, said I was blowing it out of proportion. She never sold them, he claimed. And if they're damaged or missing, it's unintentional. At most, it's a misunderstanding between two adults who used to live together. Judge didn't blink. Then it was our turn. My lawyer stood up, calm and methodical. No fluff, just dropped each piece like a hammer. First, the podcast video with the rack in full view. Then the screenshots from Instagram, the time-stamped photos, the texts from her, the message from Mason admitting damage. Each one labeled, printed, backed up digitally. Here's the value breakdown, he said, sliding a sheet across the table. Signed pressing worth $2,000, 10 other verified collectibles, and 6 damaged or missing mid-range pieces, plus fees. The judge turned to her lawyer. Do you have the 12 missing albums? He hesitated. They might have been donated. She gave him a look like she'd just stepped in something. Might have, she said. He cleared his throat. My client doesn't recall exactly when or how they were packed. So your defense is, oops, they disappeared? No, Your Honor. She cut him off. I've seen enough. Her eyes flicked to me, then to Sarah. I'm ruling in favor of the plaintiff. $5,800. Covers damages, missing property, and court fees. Sarah didn't move. For a second, I thought maybe she hadn't heard it. But then her face cracked. Eyes wide, mouth open, hands clenched so tight her knuckles turned white. Pure panic. Her lawyer whispered something in her ear, probably trying to keep her from snapping. She whispered back, but her face said everything. She was stunned, furious, embarrassed, all at once. I didn't say a word. I didn't smirk, didn't gloat. I just grabbed the paperwork, stood up, and walked out. I barely made it 10 steps out the courthouse doors before her mom caught up to me. You didn't have to do this, she said, voice tight. You've ruined her life over some stupid records. I looked her dead in the eye. She ruined her own life. I just showed the receipts. She shook her head like I was heartless and walked off. Then Mason showed up. Of course he did. Hoodie, gym shorts, and that same smug look like he was still somehow above all this. You could have just forgiven her, he said. I stared at him. You ordered a $300 bottle of sake on my tab, remember? He opened his mouth to respond, but nothing came out. Just shook his head and walked. Last one was her sister. Different approach, arms crossed, trying to sound reasonable. Where's she supposed to get $300 a month, Drew? I didn't flinch. Should have thought of that before stealing from me. I left them standing there and never looked back. The insurance check came through a week later. Not the full value, but close enough. Once I showed them the ruling and the item list, they processed it fast. That rare signed record, the one from the farewell tour, never turned up. Probably sold for pennies to some random shop that didn't know what they had. That one stung. Still does. But I'm not losing sleep. The podcast blew up. More listeners every week. People send in their own stories now. Same themes. Same pain. Different names. Apparently, betrayal's more common than anyone wants to admit. And I'm seeing someone new. Nothing crazy. No drama. Just someone normal, kind, and way more chill. First date, she asked what my favorite pressing was. That told me everything. The old vinyl shelves filling back up, one album at a time. Not chasing replacements, just picking what matters now. No signatures, no rare copies. Just records that make the place feel like mine again. That other one, the one she took, gone. But so is she. And honestly, that trade was worth it.